Welcome back. In the last video, we have seen how to create React application. In this video, we are going to modify React application code. For that, I am going to delete all the files in the source folder of our application. I have deleted all the files. Now go and see the web browser. It's showing error. Module not found error cannot resolve this index.js because we have deleted index.js, so it's showing this error. Now I am going to create a file inside the source folder index.js. Okay, and go to the browser. We don't have that error because the index.js is the entry point for our React application. As we have deleted, we got the error. Now we have created index.js. It's working fine. Before going to code into the index.js, we have to import some objects. First, we have to use import statement. Import React from React. Next, we have to import React DOM from React DOM. React-DOM. Right? Now I am going to create a simple component. For that, I'm going to use const component equal to simple component using h1 element. Inside the h1 element, this is React app. This is not a HTML. This is JSX. This JSX is the JavaScript XML. Okay. This JSX should be converted to normal JavaScript. That will be done in background with the help of Babel. We have seen in the last video. As we have given this h1 element, it automatically called the React.create element. But we are not using the create element method, even though we have to import this React object. I am going to console this element, that is component. Just save the file and go to our browser. See here, we have some object in the console. The type of the object is h1. This is the virtual DOM. Then we have the children inside this h1, that is, this is React app. Now we are going to render that. Now we want to render this JSX inside the index.html. Where we have to render? We have to render inside the div element. The ID of the div element is root. Now I am going to render by using the React DOM dot render. This render method will take two parameters. First is element, which element we are going to render, that is comp. Second element, where we want to render it, we want to render in the div element, which has the ID root. So that we have to use JavaScript notation, that is document.get element by ID. Then we have to pass the ID of the div element, that is root. Now save the changes and go to the browser. This automatically updated in the browser because we have used create React app tool, so that it will automatically sense the changes in our file and then it automatically render this content in the browser. The React application will maintain the virtual DOM. It is not a real browser DOM. Whatever changes occurred in this virtual DOM, that will be updated in the browser DOM. Okay, the React will compare the browser DOM and the virtual DOM. Whatever changes occurred or whatever updates made in the virtual DOM, that will be updated in the browser DOM, so that it will be automatically updated. But also it's showing some error, right? Warning, React DOM.render is no longer supported in the version 18. It's suggesting that use create root. Okay, now I am going to use create root element. I'm going to remove this line. Now I'm going to create a root element by giving the name as root equal to React DOM dot create element. But we are not getting the create because we have to use the module name as React DOM slash client. Now it will work fine. Now go and create root. So it's coming. Inside that we have to pass in which element we are going to render this file. For that we have to give the ID of that div element. So our ID is root. Now we have to use this root for rendering root.render of we have the component, right? That is COMP. Now save the changes and go to the browser. I had a mistake. That is how we can get this root by using the document.getElement by ID, and then we have to pass this root. Okay. Now save changes and go to our browser. That element is rendered successfully. We don't have any error, right? Now we are going to create app.js that is the responsible for displaying all the elements. For that I am going to create app.js. I am going to create a file app.js. Now I am going to create a component. We can create a component by using the class, or else we can use function. I am going to use function for creating component. For that I am going to use function. The component name or the function name to create a component should be camel case, and then we have to return the simple JSX code app component. That's it. Then we have to export this function. For that we have to use export default. We have to use export keyword, and then we have to use default keyword. Then we have to specify the app, that is the component name. Now we have to import this app.js in the index.js. For that we have to import app. Just click enter. Automatically that will be imported. Okay, just type app. You can see the suggestions. We have the first suggestion as app. So just click enter. Automatically it will be imported from /app.js file. We don't want to mention app.js. It automatically consider it is an app.js. Okay, now I'm going to remove this line, and then we have to render this app inside the render method. For that I'm going to use the app. Now I'm going to save the changes and go to our browser. This is React app from app component. So we have created a component inside the app.js, and we have rendered that component inside the index.js. Now I am going to create different components and combining those components inside the app.js. Then we are going to render that app inside the index.js, because we are separating our UI into small UIs so that we can easily maintain those components. Now we are going to see how to create components, simple components, how we are going to combine those components, and then how we are making our front-end UI. For that I am going to create a folder called as component. Inside the component I am going to create header component. For that I'm going to give header.js, and then I'm going to create content.js, and then I'm going to create footer.js. Now in the header.js I'm going to create a function name is the component name. Header, for convention we have to use this header.js. The file name should be a function name so that we can easily remember. Function. Inside the function we have to return some JX code, right? So returning a single element, I'm going to return header. Okay. For this we don't need any bracket for the return method. If you are passing multiple elements like h2, inside that header2, now it will show error because we are returning multiple elements, so that we have to use round bracket. I'm going to cut it here. Now I'm going to pass here. Now again it's showing error because JSX expression must have a parent element. So if you are passing multiple elements, these elements should be wrapped into a parent. That is, we have to pass these two elements by using some other parent element. Okay. Now I'm going to cut it here. I'm going to paste it here. See here. Now we don't have any error. Okay. So whenever we are passing multiple elements, that should be wrapped into one parent. That expression should have parent, right? For the time convenient, I am having some predefined code for this header. Okay, I am going to copy that code and paste it in our header.js. Okay, here we have header element, that is navigation bar. Okay, now I am going to save this file, and also I am going to export this header component. For that we have to use export, and we have to use default export keyword, and we have to use default, and then we have to use header, that is the component name. I am going to save changes, and then for content I am just copying this code, and I am going to paste it here, and then I am going to change the component. I am going to change here also component, right? We have done, but the component will have different code. I am going to remove these expressions, JSX expressions, and then now I am going to copy that from the content. Okay, I am going to paste it here, save changes, and then for footer I am going to have function, and then footer, the function name, that is component name, and then I am going to have some code here. Return for that I am having a code footer, simple code. Okay, now save changes. Now I am going to combine these elements, that is components, header, footer, and content in the app.js. For that we have to import those components in the app.js. For that we have to import header. Just type header and hit enter. Automatically it will be imported from that particular path. Okay. Now I am going to import content. Just select and hit enter. Automatically it will be imported. Import footer. See here, footer. It's not coming right because in the footer we didn't export the component. For that, export default footer. That's it. Right. Now go and import. Try to import our footer. We are getting right from component / footer.js. Right. We have imported, and I am going to render this components. We have to render, or we have to return the expression with this component. For that we have to pass it in the div element. We have to use parent, right? For that I am going to use a div element. Inside that I am going to have header, okay, and then I am having the content, so content I have given name as content. For that we have to use component as content. Okay, now I am going to change here also, and also I am going to change here also. Right, I have changed. Now I am going to use content, then our footer. Okay, footer. Right, now save changes. We have already exported this app component, and also we have rendered this in the index.js file. Now just go to our browser. We are having some content, but it is not formatted because we are not applied CSS. How to apply CSS? We can simply create the CSS file inside that component folder. For header, I am going to give name as header.css. Okay. Now we have the style here. I am going to copy this and paste it in our application. Right. Then we have to import this CSS. Then only it will be applied. For that I am going to use import. Inside the quotation we have to import /header.css. Just save the file and go to our browser. We are getting that right. We are getting the style. Now for every component we are going to create a style. For that I am going to create content.css. Content.css. Okay. For that I having predefined code. I am going to use that code. Right. Copy here. Paste it here. Save and import this CSS in the. We have to use import. Within the code we have to import the content.css. Save changes. And now for the footer I am going to create a file footer.css. CSS. Now I am going to copy the CSS for footer. Okay, and paste it in our footer.css. Save the file, and in the footer we have to import that. Import, within the code we have to import footer, that is we have to import by using the path / footer.css. Now save the changes and let's go to our browser. We are getting this UA, right? Likewise, we can create the simple components. We can combine those components in the app.js, right? So for the navigation, we can create this navigation bar in different component. In that we can use this navigation links in different component. We can combine those components. Okay, right? Likewise, we can create simple components and then we can combine those components to make the proper UI. In this video, we have learned about how to create simple components and combine those components to make a proper UI. In the next video, we will see about how to create forms and how to link that React application with the Express application which we have already created, right?